Welcome into Jungle Tales, the Pirate Baseball Podcast. We're coming to you live on a Wednesday night, February 19th, episode 19 of the show, and the first of This Week in Pirate Baseball. This will typically be each and every Sunday night, but on this Sunday night, we had a 6 or 7 hour power outage, and then my son had basketball games each of the last 2 nights. Also battled some technical difficulties on either my end or potentially my end, as well as Mark Minicozzi. But welcome in former East Carolina third baseman from the early 2000s and the current manager of the Staten Island FerryHawks, and that is Mark Minicozzi. Guys, we appreciate your time.
Bubba, thanks for having me, man. Love pirate baseball, passionate about it, and happy to be here.
No doubt. Always love talking pirate baseball with you. And East Carolina off to a 2-2 start. We'll not touch much on the Campbell game because that will be discussed on this week's edition of This Week in Pirate Baseball, which will be Sunday night, as we'll talk about the defeat 3-2 last night in Bowie's Creek to the Campbell Camels, and then also hopefully what will be a 3-game series against North Carolina if weather permits. But taking a look back at that opening series against George Mason, East Carolina going 2-1. The Pirates faced deficits going into the late innings in each game, able to overcome those deficits in games 2 and 3, a pair of 4-3 victories. What were some of your major takeaways? We'll dive into all aspects of that opening weekend.
Yeah, I mean, going into the weekend, obviously it's tough. I mean, the games change times. The boys had 3 games in 26, 27 hours. So, it's very difficult. When you got to play 3 games in that kind of, scenario, it definitely gives the upper hand to it, a team who I guess would say is a weaker team than us and George Mason. So, they were able to pull through and get a win the first game, and hey, they competed all weekend against us, and fortunately, the boys figured it out the second game, or the first game on Saturday and the second game, and found a way to win.
Throughout the preseason, with the intra squads, we had seen a lot of very low scores. We thought there may be some difficulty scoring runs, just with all the young pieces and just some of the newness there, and that proved to be the case. But you saw as the weekend went along, especially in that third game, you saw some better ABs, and definitely nowhere near where it will be and where we'd want it. But it started to look more like pirate baseball.
Yeah, no, it's obviously I don't think everybody. We always want to hit, and we've hit for a long time at East Carolina. But yeah, I mean, it sometimes, especially with the new faces. I mean, you go through the lineup. There's a lot of new faces, a lot of young kids in there. It's cold out. It's the first weekend. They're facing live competition in real games. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. But just watching the first 3 games and seeing 4 games in, and struggling at the plate. This is the time where you make adjustments. You find a way, and hey, it's an opportunity for a lot of guys. Hey, there's a lot of guys who are competing to be that guy this year, to be, in that lineup every day. So, hey, when other guys are struggling, it gives an opportunity for those guys. I know we harp on, toughness over talent. So, who's the toughest guy? Who's going to be the guy who says, you know what, this is my job. So, you take the positives out of some negatives that happened this weekend. It might open the door for some other guys to show that they can get the job done.
And Dixon Williams definitely didn't have his best weekend. Just two hits, but both of those left the yard, an opposite field shot, and then one that was about 410 feet that was critical. Pirates facing, as I mentioned in the lead in, a late inning deficit and 2-1, and then you have that 3-run shot by Dixon, and you could tell, he circled the bases with a little swagger.
Yeah, no, hey, I mean he's our leader this year. He's one of the returning guys that we have trust in, and that he's going to be the guy. So, um, I know from experience going from our 2004 team, we lost almost the majority of the lineup in 2005, and uh, it definitely took me a good amount of at bats. I went from being a 6, 7, 8 hitter to right in the middle at 3, and it definitely took. It was an adjustment period. You're trying to do too much. You're trying to win the game. So I mean, Dixon came up with a huge hit to really when the guys were struggling and we needed something. He came up with a big hit, but I mean, you could see that. You could see him maybe pressing a little at the plate, trying to do too much, and I think as we settle in the year, you'll see the player that he had a great summer this year in in the wood bat leagues, and I think he'll have a good year this year.
And as the season progresses, obviously some of those bats around him will hopefully come along as well. Be it obviously Colby's done a little damage thus far with a home run and a double, but also guys like Austin Irby that are batting at the top of the lineup to provide some protection.
Yeah, I mean, 4 games in, man, you can't. I mean, we're hitting 180. Team average is like 180 right now. I mean,
Right,
that is
exactly.
that's not gonna stick. We're gonna be a good offensive team, and as I think as Cliff said, we're not having that many quality at bats to start the year, and and that comes from being young, playing multiple games, and quite frankly, not to throw shade on George Mason, but we didn't see great arms, So sometimes when you're facing, look at in spring. I mean, they're facing. You see our bullpen. You see our starters. Every guy's coming out throwing 92, 93. We have some really really good arms. You play George Mason and their flamethrowers are throwing 86. Sometimes that is like it sort of sets you back a little because you're like, wow, we're used to seeing these good arms, and now we just saw a guy who you know we almost have to look at our watch when the ball gets across the plate. So those are adjustments they'll make, and adjustments I'm sure they're working on right now. So I have faith that they'll get it right, and they'll put it together.
You talk about the arms on the starting pitching. Um, you heard it with Ethan Norby in Cliff's post-game interview. Also, Sean Jenkins, although both of those guys were good enough to give the Pirates a chance to win, especially Jenkins, obviously just a single hit in 5 and a fraction. And that one hit did go 430 feet. But one of the things that stood out to me was how Sean Jenkins was exactly as advertised as far as his approach and just his presence out there, that he had the short memory. And so what when he gave up that deep fly over the batter's eye, he got better from that point on.
Yeah, no, hey, that's a positive sign. You see a kid like that. He's a young kid, comes out there. A guy hits a huge home run, and he attacks the next hitter, and that's what you want. Have that short memory. Some of the best players that I played with probably didn't have high GPAs, but that almost helped them because I didn't think too much. I just went out there and hit or pitched. So. Yeah, no, the guys look good, man. The pitching looked good. I think we had a couple, walks here and there early in the games, but we attacked the zone. We had, the one guy that had nine punch outs in 3 and the third innings. I mean, that's impressive to see, an outing like that. Um, I mean, I don't want to miss on what the Colby Wallace, man. Talk about a gutsy performance. The dude, I guess I can't see if he, gets warmed up the night inning before or gets ready before, but man, the guy can go straight from third base, no warm ups, 7, 8 pitches, bases loaded, biggest part of the game. And the kid comes in, and, I think some of us sitting on the chair being those Monday morning quarterbacks were like, what are we doing? He's not warm. Biggest situation, the first 2 pitches, I think were like above the head of the guy. We're like, oh no. And, he settled in and struck I think the next 2 guys out, got us out of that jam. And I mean, that was the difference between the game, man. That was that was the moment that we needed someone to step up, and he came in, straight from third base and got the job done. So maybe I'm a little partial to a guy who's playing third base and goes to the mound, but um, he got the job done, and man, that's a gutsy performance from a guy, to come in that situation and get the job done in that big situation.
Yeah, Coach Mazey should have put you on the mound in the way he did Trevor, right?
Yeah, he did in '05. I still got that 0.00 ERA in ECU history.
Now, remind me. That's funny. I had actually forgotten about that. Now, who was that against?
Who did I pitch against? I pitched against NC State, some smaller teams, that you play. I got NC State, North Carolina, and I pitched against UNLV, the last strikeout of '05 at ASU. I live here now, to think my last home run in college and my last strikeout on the mound happened about 4 miles from where I live now. Unfortunately, it's not a field anymore, but uh, it 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 was that was a great experience, and man, it's cool to see. It's cool to see some of these guys, do both now.
Now, the
It
game
was very odd back in our day.
not to dwell on bad memories as far as the game as a whole, but that '05 game against the Tar Heels that you pitched, was it that game at home where we gave up like 18 runs?
No, I pitched on the road. I really remember it because I think it was I just came back from an injury, and I think I had two punchies. I had they had the catcher who ended up being a big leaguer, and then I forget the other guy, but I had two punchies in that game, and I was like, that's right, I can do
Right.
this. I had no clue what I was doing. I was closing my eyes, trying to throw it as hard as I could. So
Well, one of the relief performances that you mentioned is Brad Pruitt, the Oklahoma transfer, Texas native. Pitched sparingly last year for the Sooners, but very highly regarded coming out of high school. And congrats to Brad Pruitt. He's our PGXGLOVES.com pitcher of the week, 3 1/3. As you mentioned, 9 strikeouts of the 10 outs he recorded in once again 3 1/3 shutout innings, surrendering just 2 hits. He did walk 3, and Cliff mentioned in some of his comments since that series, just he said on one hand it didn't exactly seem like he was that dominant as far as 9 Ks because it was a walk followed by a strikeout, but nonetheless a heck of a first performance in the purple and gold for Brad Pruitt.
yeah, we got to thank Oklahoma for that. I mean, that's great to see an arm like that. I mean, it's very encouraging to see a guy go out there and have wipeout stuff. I mean, you get in big situations, you get in big games. There are times where it's like, man, we need to strike out. Who are we going to? And seeing a guy who can come in there and get a couple swings and misses is huge.
And in that second game against George Mason, the Pirates had taken an early lead on a Colby Wallace home run to left center, right around 400 feet. And I think at that point we had fallen behind, and that performance by Brad Pruitt had allowed East Carolina to stay right there within a run of the Patriots, and provided the opportunity for Dixon Williams to hit that big 3-run bomb that we already discussed.
Yeah, I mean the biggest number as I look at that pitcher of the week, you see a 3 1/3 inning, and there's one number that's glaring on that board, and it's the goose egg 0, man. If you go out there and you get 3+ innings with 0 runs, you're giving the team an opportunity to win, every time you go out there. So, that's the biggest thing. Obviously 9 Ks look real good on the stat line, but it's that goose egg 0 going 3 1/3 and letting the guys compete and giving the hitters an opportunity to, step up and take over the game.
Also in that game, you perhaps already referenced this guy, but Ian White Jr. I know we discussed him yesterday on the phone when we were experiencing some of our technical difficulties, but he's a guy that you really like what you saw out of Ian. Had a couple of outings. He and Jackson DiLorenzo, who of course was a freshman a year ago and logged significant innings. The two of them were the only guys that saw multiple outings on opening weekend, and White, was very confident and had excellent stuff.
Yeah, hey, you got to love I don't know if you technically call him the closer, but you have a freshman closer or freshman guy come in, get the save, pitch multiple times. Um, Again, I have a little preference. Both those two guys you mentioned are Northeast guys. We got a Philly guy in White. De Lorenzo's a New York native. So, I always, being a Philly native myself, um, I always root for those guys. We grow up with the snow that I think you guys are seeing right now, and we don't get as much time outside as you guys get. So I think we're a little maybe tougher than the kids from Florida who are in sun every day. We have to grind through and you know get the icers out, the ice off the windshield, so we can go to the batting cage.
On the weekend, in 27 innings, Pirates surrendered just 12 hits, and the Patriots batted a buck 40. However, one of the big reasons that they were able to score, I guess, 13 runs in the series were the too many free 90s. As Cliff Godwin says, 16 walks and 5 hit batters. 28 strikeouts to 21 free passes, a number that you would like to see improve. A year ago, I think it was pretty much 2-1 for the Pirates. And I know early in the season, this weekend's opponent, North Carolina, they had a 4-1 ratio.
Yeah, no, it's as a manager of a baseball team, that's it gets us a little more gray every time we see that lovely stat BB on a stat line. Um, the walks kill you, man. But I mean, I think that's something pitchers need to have faith in getting those ground balls and letting the defense behind them play. I think over almost the last decade, since Coach Palumbo's been there, I mean, we've had arguably probably the best or one of the probably top 5 defenses in all of college baseball. So I mean, we did struggle a little this weekend on plays, but I don't think that's going to be a common theme all year. Palumbo, I think, has shown that he has his guys ready, and I think you were saying before, I think we have like a career like 970 defensive rating over the last 7 or 8 years. So I think the defense will be strong. I just think first weekend, 3 games, bumped up 27 hours. A lot can happen in a day and a half.
No doubt. Jeff Palumbo was a player at George Mason, was a 2-time conference player of the year back in the CAA days. And Palumbo has certainly, done an unbelievable job, leading East Carolina, particularly those infielders, and just, time and again, the Pirates are up there, right around 980, anywhere from 975 to 985 as a team fielding percentage, which is tremendous and among the best in the nation.
Yeah, I got a little taste of it, man. I don't even want to date myself. That's like 9 years ago. I spent a little time finishing my degree at ECU, and got to work with the team and watch Coach Palumbo and the infielders, and it's impressive. They get after it. He works at those guys. He's relentless on those guys, and really gets after it. So it's definitely something to look at. You're like, wow, the consistency is based off of what kind of work they put in the off season, what kind of work they put in the preseason, and the work they're doing now. So I don't think I think what happened this weekend's probably just a little glitch on first weekend. It's cold. It's first weekend, a lot of new faces. I fully expect that defense to be as solid as it always is.
In game 3, the Pirates, once again, faced a late inning deficit, 3-0, and despite very little offense, obviously in those first 6 or 7 innings. I guess really about the first five. We started chip away there in the late portion of the middle innings, and the crowd started getting into it, trying to get some momentum rolling for a team that's struggling offensively, and we're able to do so. And even though it went down as an error, once the Pirates loaded the bases, I believe it was in the bottom of the fifth, just going off memory here. Dixon Williams laced one to the four hole, and again, it was an error because the second baseman was playing in shallow right field, but still had to range several steps to his left, and Dixon was able to beat it out when he bobbled it. So
Yeah, no, hey,
I got the ball rolling, and then from there you had a couple of huge home runs from Alex Peltier, and then also obviously the walk off from Alex Boucher from Old Dominion, the former Monarch.
yeah. I mean, I think I'm sure it's been harped on too this week is got to put pressure. I mean, we have man, there's a lot of K's on that stat line over the weekend, but putting that ball in play and putting pressure on guys, it East Carolina is not Clark LeClaire Clark LeClaire is not a fun place to visit. Um, I still hear it all the time. Guys who play against me or for me, when we bring up I was a Pirate, guys who've played at ECU are like, man, that was a tough place to play. So, when you have the home field advantage like we do, putting pressure on the defense is so huge, man. These teams like, George Mason and, these teams that, maybe don't have the talent that we have. When you put pressure on them, they're going to make mistakes, and I'm sure that's been talked about as limiting those strikeouts, making them earn those outs. If they earn those outs, as we said, the second baseman made a huge crucial error, and then we capitalized on it. So taking advantage of putting the ball in play and taking advantage of having, we sort of have a 10th player out there on the field with those fans, man. It still fires me up watching the game. Pro baseball, you don't have that same kind of atmosphere unless you go down to, Venezuela, Dominican, or, a foreign country. You don't have that same, kind of crazy atmosphere. So, I definitely love seeing it and love watching the fans get behind the team and have an impact on the game.
And what you're referencing is, what we like to call the jungle effect.
I like it. I like it. The jungle effect.
But
you're getting older when they made the new field when I was there, and there was like little trees in the outfield. And I'm like, man, they call we took down all the trees. How are we going to call this the jungle? And now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get back in a couple of years. But I watch the games and I see the trees, and I'm like, man, I'm getting old. We got the jungle back. This is awesome. So
yeah.
No, it's awesome. It's there's not many other atmospheres like it. I know Cliff has done a phenomenal job of building that up and expanding and making it bigger and better than it's ever been. So I mean, that's huge. I mean, what a recruiting tool, what a tool to have in your back pocket that, I remember when I first went to East Carolina, we had, the metal bleachers behind the dugout, or, that was all you had. So, to see what the guys have done and see how, Cliff has changed his program and has made it, where people want to be there. People want to go to our school because of what it is. And it's special, man. The East Carolina Pirates it's a special program. And, it's these kids are fortunate to be a part of it, man. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, you're one of, I guess, just tens of guys, from that 02 to 06 time period, and they had the opportunity to play at Harrington Field and Clark LeClaire, so it's pretty unique. So you got to see, like I was telling my dad the other day, I said kind of the OJ and NJ for the old jungle, new jungle. But
yeah, no. Hey, I mean, it's funny. You see it. You go through I remember going through the clubhouse. I mean, this is eight years ago, and I was like, man, we used to have to walk from the football stadium. We had one Russell T-shirt that if we got it stained the whole season, we had a stain on it. So to see how the program has blossomed and see what what impact it has on, the facilities, everything that's there now. It's special, man. It's why we grind it out, and that's why we, wanted to be a special team back in our day. We knew that, that 2001 team, 2004, those teams built what East Carolina is today. It's pretty special, man. You see in the offseason, you're seeing, East Carolina guys getting, I think it was, Jeff Hoffman got, $30+ million this offseason. You see some of these guys, Alec Burleson is becoming a star, and with the Cardinals. You see Norby, becoming a big player with the Marlins, and man, look at that. Clayton McCullough is the manager of the Marlins. So,
Yep.
It's inspiring to see where the Pirates program has come. I mean, a couple years, 10 years ago, there was a handful of guys who got to play in the big leagues or get to, the highest levels. There was only a handful of guys who played in AAA. So to see where the program is now, and to see guys elevate on the coaching side, to see guys elevate on the player side, it's special, man. It shows how far this program's become, and it shows what it's built up to, and I believe it's going to continue.
Yeah, as you mentioned, of course, Burley with the Cards, and Connor Norby with the Miami Marlins, along with Clayton McCullough being the newly named manager, coming over from the Dodgers where he had so much success. And then Gavin Williams, Sean Armstrong signed another contract.
Armstrong.
Last year he bounced around, and he's with the Texas Rangers. And
Armstrong struck me out a couple times at the end of my career. My bat speed wasn't the best, I guess, in my 30s, but I faced Armstrong a couple times. I think I got him in the books at least once. I think I got at least one home run off of him, but I know he probably struck me out a good amount.
But this year the Pirates will open, or on opening day, I should say, for MLB. They'll have 5 guys on MLB rosters. And then you have guys like Carson Wisenhunt, who could very well get the call up this year for the San Francisco Giants. Spent, I think, the majority of last year, if not the entire year, in AAA. And then you also have Trey Savage. We'll see how quickly he rises through the ranks, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility here in the next year or two for him to be up at Toronto with the Blue Jays. So here in the very near future, you could have 7, maybe even 8 Pirates in the big leagues.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see. I know at my level, we're dealing with a lot of guys, unfortunately, on the back end. So, they play in the big leagues and get, released or getting a little old. They end up in our league. But it's great. I mean, I know a former Pirate, Jack Reimheimer. I've seen him the last couple of years. I was fortunate to be on the call like a day before when he got signed. I talked to, I want to say it was the Cubs signed him last year. I talked to the Cubs right before, and they're like, who's the best shortstop in the league? And, Pirates are close to the heart. There was no one else I was saying. I was like, you got to sign Reimheimer, get that kid. So, I'm always pushing for those guys, and it's exciting, man. It's exciting now being on the other side and I'm sure it's exciting for Cliff to see these guys, grow up as, man, they're little puppies when they come into East Carolina, and they grow up and they're men, in the big league. So, that's unfortunately when we get old, that's what you live for. And man, I had a long career playing, but man, it's so fun watching these guys. I get opportunities and, and watch them grow as players and people.
I referenced those big home runs by Alex Peltier and Alex Boucher. Both of those came on 0-2 counts, so that was really painful, or all the more painful for George Mason and surrendering those on 0-2 counts. And Alex Peltier is our PGXGLOVES.com Player of the Week, 3 for 9. His first action as a Pirate, the freshman, out of Haymarket, Virginia. And, Johnny Robertson chimed in, via text saying that he was beside Carter Cunningham, also a native of Haymarket, Virginia, in the jungle when that home run was hit, and that Carter had called AP's shot. So congratulations to AP, Alex Peltier, 3 for 9, a couple runs scored, and that game-tying home run in Game 3 on Saturday afternoon at Clark LeClaire. And he had 4 or 5 chances in center field, and very speedy guy, and he handled all of those chances in center successfully, and looking forward to seeing what he does moving forward. Also taking a look on the pitching side, you had some other quality performances I wanted to note. Brad Zayak got the start in Game 2, of course. We wanted to keep the routine consistent for the 17-year-old freshman, Sean Jenkins. So that was no surprise when I saw Cliff announced that Zayak would get the ball in Game 2, with that being the doubleheader on Friday. And then Jackson DiLorenzo, we know D'Lo is going to do great things this year. Struggle with his command on opening weekend, but despite issuing 5 walks in an inning and 2/3, still managed to notch 2 wins. So you'll take that every time. Is it
Yeah, I mean, try to.
I say you'll take that every time. That's obviously a little tongue in cheek there. Just that was a very unusual stat line. I made that comment to several people, yourself included, that I don't know that I've ever seen someone walk 5 people in an inning and 2/3 and still win 2 games.
Hey, you know what? At the end of the day, that the dub is what matters. So,
Exactly.
that's all that matters. Hey, make the adjustments, and you already got 2 dubs under your belt. So that's a great start.
And then you saw brief outings from the Liberty transfers, Nick Moran and Taylor Grubbs. Jake Hunter, awesome to see him back on the mound, after having to wear that brace for Tommy John. And so Pirates used 12 arms on the weekend, 2 of those being repeat performances from Ian White Jr. and Jackson DiLorenzo. Kind of as we begin to wrap things up here, Kaz wanted to take a quick look around the American on opening weekend. FAU swept Delaware, outscoring the Blue Hens 35-5. Tulane was also 3-0 as they swept Omaha, scoring in double figures in every game, winning 12-10, 10-4, and 10-7. Memphis was 2-1, taking the series from Southeast Missouri State. UAB, the Blazers lost their opener to Maryland and then bounced back with wins over Mercyhurst and Towson down in Charleston at Shipyard Park. South Florida took 2 out of 3 under the new head coach Mitch Hanna's coming over from Indiana State, defeating the Hawkeyes 5-4 and 9-5 in games 1 and 3, dropping the middle game 8-2. Charlotte split 2 games with Northeastern, a very good club out of the CAA. Game 3 was canceled. UTSA went 1-2. Wichita State also went 1-2. That was down at McNeese State, and Rice was swept down in Puerto Rico, falling to Villanova 10-6, Michigan 5-2, and UVA 7-0. So there you have a quick look around the American Athletic Conference and what took place on opening weekend. We'll provide that on social media as well. So if you follow us on X or Instagram at Jungle Tales Pod, you can see our look around the American with our AAC baseball scoreboard. And Kaz, as we wrap up, I wanted to talk about your assignment for the 2025 professional baseball season. You're going to be back once again with the Staten Island FerryHawks as their manager. Tell us a little about that and when you'll be getting started, your timetable with things.
Yeah, man, we're started now. We're signing guys. This is the sort of the time when spring training starts and guys are free agents without jobs. We start signing our players. But no, it's going to be exciting. It's my first time going back to a place for a second season, so it's a lot more familiar than any other time. But we're excited, man. We should have a good amount of probably 10 to 12 big leaguers on our roster starting opening day. We ended up having we have right now 11 players that are in major league camps that played last year with us. So the Atlantic League's a little different, man. We want to win, but at the end of the day, our jobs are to help develop guys or have those hard brash talks with guys and say, hey, these are the adjustments you need to make, and this is how you get back to where you want to be. So it's pretty cool. I had in 2023, my team from 2023, I had 3 guys get to the big leagues last year from that team, or get back to the big leagues this year. So, that's the goal at our level, is to get these guys, if they're coming back from injury, if they're coming back from a bad year, is to, make those adjustments and give these guys a second chance or a third chance at the big leagues. So, it's awesome. I'm excited to get back to work and, compete every day.
I know 2 or 3 seasons ago, had the chance to watch the team you were managing it at the time out of Lexington, Kentucky, if I recall correctly, play against the High Point Rockers, and I believe that team had Chris Davis that had hit 50 bombs for the Oakland A's. In addition to Chris Davis, what are some recognizable names that you've had the opportunity to manage?
Yeah, I've been fortunate, man. The last 3 years, I've had 3 Major League All-Stars play for me. I've had, Chris Davis, as you're saying. I think he's like multi, home run champ. Very good friend of mine. I had Starlin Castro, who was an All-Star. I want to say multiple times. Once with the Yankees, and then with the Nationals. I had him in 2023. I had multi All-Star and World Series MVP Pablo Sandoval last year on my roster, and don't want to give anything away, but there's possibility that he'll be on the 2025 roster as well. But no, that's it's awesome. It's awesome to be able to work with these guys, and it feels good sometimes. When you have Pablo Sandoval come into your office and say, hey, well, what do you see? What adjustments do we have to make at the plate? So, that's what I love to do. I love to sit there and, help these guys get to where they want to be, and help them, either finish their careers or resurrect their careers. So, but yeah, we intend, we'll have, we already have about 4 or 5 guys who we just signed a guy verbally, who was pitching in the big leagues last year, who is somehow not without a job. So, our league has changed drastically over the last couple of years with the players in the minor leagues have got less and less every year. So our league continues to be, a hotbed. I think we had over 50 players from our league signed over last season. Fortunately, we had 7 from our team. We have 11 in camp this year. So, that's the goal, is to get these guys, their second opportunities.
Great stuff. I know Pirate Nation will enjoy getting an update on your whereabouts and what you've been up to, managing. And
Bubba, come to High Point, man. Come and see it. Get a picture with the panda.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. Justin Butts very quickly chimed in here, on YouTube, saying that his brother Brett Butts, played.
I'm losing you. I think the snow's starting to hit your house.
Can you hear me now? Well, hopefully everyone else can hear me. Even if you can't, I'll go ahead and wrap things up here. But Justin Butts was chiming in via YouTube, saying, I believe his brother Brett was one of your teammates. If not, he was right there after you, playing, for Billy Godwin. But that he had great memories of your time, and then also obviously of watching his brother play for the Pirates. But and then he was kidding. He's umpire now. He said, let me umpire his games. He said, I'm gonna throw Kaz out. But we appreciate everyone tuning in. Be sure to follow us on social media, on X and Instagram. You can find us at Jungle Tales Pod on YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify. We can be found by simply searching Jungle Tales, an ECU baseball podcast, or a Pirate baseball podcast, I should say. But that will do it for this 19th edition of the show and the season debut of This Week in Pirate Baseball. We appreciate Mark Minicozzi's time, and he will be joining us these next couple weeks, and before he has to report for his managerial duties in the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball. And I think Kaz is actually back with us now as we're signing out.
Boom, we're back.
But yeah, Kaz, I was just in the process of wrapping up, but I appreciate you signing back in. I was just saying that these next couple weeks before you take on your managerial duties in the Atlantic League of Professional Baseball, you'll be with us on This Week in Pirate Baseball as we take a look back at the Pirates week. This week, of course, Campbell, and hopefully 3 games against number 6 North Carolina.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And Pirates in my blood. When the Philadelphia Eagles end and I stop bleeding green, I start bleeding purple. So, it's fun to watch, and I hope they have a great weekend this weekend against UNC.
Yeah, no doubt. So again, be sure to follow us on social media, and we'll talk to you soon here on Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. And we appreciate everyone tuning in. And as always, go Pirates.
Go Pirates.